eventually when this piece is done, it will be rotated. I'm going to hit this angled snap toggle. For those of you who don't remember, this button up here actually lets you rotate things in 5-degree increments. So that will actually be somewhat like that in its final form, with the other piece that we're going to do going this direction right here. Let's go ahead and put that back. I want to make sure it stays flat. And while it stays flat, I'm going to actually model the other piece directly off of this one. So while here's the one piece, I'm going to name it just seat 01. I just clicked up here and typed in some new name for it. And here I'm going to hold down my move tool by hitting W on my keyboard or pressing the button up here. And on the y-axis, it doesn't really matter if it's the y or the x-axis in this point, I'm going to hold down shift and make a copy of the entire object. Now this window right here I want everybody to focus on is this is where you actually clone the object. We have three selections here. We have copy, instance, or reference. Now what copy does is it just makes an exact copy of it. So when you continue to work on it, it does not change anything but the copy you're working on. But when you make something an instance, which I'll do in this case, whenever you change this one, like I'll just do a quick connect here to show you, the other one automatically updated with it. So an instance is actually the same piece of, same object, and whenever you change one, it changes both. So I'm going to do that again. Make this a copy because when I change this one, I don't want the other one to change with it because it's going to be two separate pieces. So here we go. Make copy. Now with this one, this is where we tend to get a bit lazy and where we don't really want to model too much a new piece. And this is going to be a piece that's going to fit right inside of here. But the first thing I want to do is make sure that all these polygons that make it identical, I'm going to delete them. So I just selected those polygons by clicking and dragging. They're all red. And I just delete. Now I'm left with this open gap here, these set of holes, and I want to make sure that I seal that. Now there's a couple ways to seal it. We have a modifier that can do it for us, or we can do the edge copy again. I'm just going to do that. I'm just going to select that one edge right there, hold down shift, I'm going to shift copy that edge and use the target weld again from there to there, and it did that for me. So now I'm left with 1, 2, 3 polygons here. Now this is going to be convenient because the gap that's here is going to be the same distance as the gap that's here, here, and here because I took it from the same model. So when I select these two polygons and then use this new tool called Extrude that we briefly talked about last week, Extrude, I can then just extrude it and keep that the same length. Now it's a separate piece that will then fit into those notches right there. So if I were to take this piece and just rotate it, let's say 90 degrees, and visually just move it over there, somewhere up there, it's going to have the same width to fit, just like that. It's not going to be the same width this direction, but I'll fix that here in a second. So I set that right there. That looks about good. Now I'm going to go to this one here, and all I'm going to do is go to vertex mode, and I'm going to click and drag across all those vertices that you see right there. Every single vertex there is red, it's selected, and I'm just going to physically pull them down like that. Click off there, object mode. Now I'm just going to manually kind of put these in sync with one another. Alright. And it's going to be too tall because this is actually the seat part and this is the seat back part. So now we're just going to select the vertices. I've got them all selected. I'm going to shorten them up by just making the seat part a little shorter. There we go. Now I'm going to hit F for front view, and it kind of looks like a cross. And this is the part where I click and drag to select both objects. And I go to my rotation tool. Now when I rotate this, it's going to do something like that. There's my seat. I can even rotate it a bit more. Let's go to front view, hit F. I'd say that is probably the most accurate for this. So what it's saying is if this was sitting on the ground, we couldn't really sit in this because these legs are not long enough. So I'm just going to hit Control Z a couple times and get it back to this. Select this object. And now it just comes to making it physically look like it would sit down or it would actually work. So I'm going to pull that down. Hit F for front view. And I'm going to give this a slight bend to it. And I'm just going to visually line it up right here. But I can also hit grid and see where that lines up on the grid and then rotate this accordingly. See, right about there, it looks like it's off center a bit. Now this would be the point where you want to turn off this angle snap toggle, to where when you have this turned on, it rotates in 5-degree increments. But with this turned off, you can actually kind of freeform it. And that's kind of what I want to do. I want to just eyeball it to line up to that edge right there. There we go. Now you'll notice it did go off center here, and that's where we need to make some adjustments. I'm going to slide it back into its spot, and let's look. Okay, see, it's intersecting with that piece okay, but it's actually cutting into the wood, what would be wood. I'm going to hit P for perspective, go down in here. Now here I'm actually just going to select those vertices again in wireframe mode. You can see I have those selected. And I'll pull it up just a bit so it's not intersecting with that anymore. And I'm going to do the same with these vertices here. All selected. I'm going to pull it down just to where it touches, just so it is believable. Back to object mode. Now I'm going to go back to front view, click and drag across both objects, and I'm going to rotate them. Okay, right about there. Now I should be able to rotate this in place manually and just kind of fit it to where it's a seat. See, I'm not doing anything mathematically here. I'm just eyeballing it just to see how it works. And this is how I want to introduce this part here to you. Right here, this little pull-down menu that's here, we can actually set the view on the view, or the actual tangent of these arrows to the view, to the screen, to the world space, to the parent objects, which we don't have, or its local space. Now its local space moves it on with the axis it exists at the moment. So I'm going to use that. Go back to F, and you see here the difference, how it actually moves upon its tangents, rather than what it is by default, which is view. See, it moves this direction. So local. So I'm going to set it to where it's right about there. Just again, you want your stuff to be believable. The more believable it is, the more impressed people will be. Alright. So from there, there's some other adjustments I can make. But I'd say for the most part, that's a Viking chair. Now we can get a little more intricate with this by putting designs and logos and cutouts and Celtic emblems and all that fun stuff in here, but that comes later on. The basics of just getting these boxes manipulated and put in there was the purpose of this video, and that's going to end this video for this point.